Good morning. My name is Todd Gloria. I'm the mayor of the city of San Diego. With me this morning are our Deputy Chief Operating Officers, Alia Khoury and Casey Smith. We also have our Fire Chief, Robert Logan, is here. Christina Bibler, our Director of the city's Economic Development Department. Rania Aman, our City Engineer and the Director of our Engineering and Capital Improvement Capital Projects Department, Juan Guerrero, the Director of our Public Utilities Department, Julie Rasco, our Director of Human Resources, and our Special Advisor in my office, the great Steve Cushman, is here too. Remind you that back in January, during my State of the City address, I detailed the $258 million structural budget deficit facing the city of San Diego and how I plan to address it. I mentioned at the time that we would do it in a balanced approach, that we would do reductions, revenues, and trying to become more efficient. The revenues and the reductions have got a lot of attention. Today is about the efficiencies, and I want to draw your attention to one of them in particular. Back in January, I announced that we would conduct a wholesale examination of our city's office space lease agreements. And where it was cost beneficial, I said that we would terminate or renegotiate leases and consolidate space to save taxpayer money. I'm here to tell you that that's exactly what we are doing. Today, I'm announcing that we have renegotiated an office space lease agreement for the building at 525 B Street in downtown, where staff from multiple city departments currently work on 6 floors. We are making use of city-owned office space that had been remained vacant in 2019. So as folks from 525B are moving to the city-owned office space that you see here behind me. As a result, we will save San Diego taxpayers more than $13 million over the next 5 years. City staff from the Engineering and Capital Projects Department will move out of 4 of the floors at 525 B Street in downtown and relocate to this city-owned office complex here in Kearny Mesa. And staff from the Fire Rescue Department will move to the city-owned Civic Center Plaza building in downtown San Diego. And finally, staff from the Public Utilities Department, who operate the customer call center, will continue to occupy 1 floor at B Street, ensuring that there is no interruption to the important work they do serving San Diego ratepayers. But that will be under a renegotiated lease that will provide significant cost savings to taxpayers. All told, we are reducing our footprint at 525B from 6 floors down to 1. As you know, I have presented a draft budget that balances revenues and spending through a combination of responsible cost-saving measures and new revenue sources. We're not only working to balance next year's budget amid slower growth and inflationary pressures, but also to bring our expenses and revenues in alignment over the long term. What we're announcing today, $13 million in savings, is a great step to address that structural deficit. In the coming fiscal year, the savings from this office space consolidation plan will be used for moving costs and tenant improvements at these Gibbs Drive buildings, which are currently underway. Those improvements, which are being completed by City General Services Department staff, will be made for the benefit of our own building, when we will no longer be renting from a private corporation, but instead we'll be putting the public dollars toward an asset that we all own as taxpayers. The savings associated with these actions will provide significant budgetary relief in the coming years and help us to avoid future reductions to critical neighborhood services. We'll have another $2.6 million per year that can be put elsewhere in coming budgets and will be part of a host of operational efficiency initiatives that lower costs without affecting services like the public receives, while allowing us to save jobs, keep libraries open, repave roads, and keep cops on patrol. Let me close by addressing something I expect that could be raised, and that is the question whether or not this move is worth the effort. And let me state this plainly, it is. The $13 million that we will save over the next 5 years is money that we will go to keep people on the job serving San Diegans. And we need to seek every opportunity we can to save taxpayer dollars. This is fiscally responsible, and it is undeniable. That said, I do want to acknowledge the incredible partnership of the city leadership team behind me and the generous flexibility of our city staff. Making these changes obviously is challenging, but this crew behind me has moved heaven and earth to make sure that we can realize these savings in the coming fiscal year, again, to help us balance the budget, not just for next year, but for years to come. I also want to acknowledge our city employees. State it very simply, I know no one enjoys moving, but this is necessary to make sure that we can continue to keep them on the job serving the people of this great city. Their willingness to adapt will help us to continue to serve San Diegans efficiently and effectively while putting our organization on sounder financial footing for our future. This is responsible, it is strategic, and it is a balanced decision, the kind that this moment demands. And while we have many more tough decisions ahead of us, with moves like this and the steady focus of this city leadership team, I know that we will keep San Diego moving forward. I appreciate the chance to share that with you all, and happy to answer questions or do one-on-ones. Ed Linderman?
Let's talk about the structural deficit every year, and we're just not getting enough revenue. That's one of them.
Yeah. So a reminder that the structural budget deficit has been with us for decades. And it is a function of our revenues not matching our expenses. We're the 8th largest city in the country. We continue to grow year after year, even last year, adding about 20,000 or so people to our city. Those folks demand additional services, and so that increased our costs. But generally speaking, we have not kept up in terms of revenues. Reminder that we have the lowest sales tax in the state of California. We have one of the lowest TOTs in the state, certainly lower than LA, San Francisco, Anaheim. We continue to be challenged with other revenue sources. And this year, this has been exacerbated because of the inflationary pressures that every San Diegan is dealing with. But what San Diego families are dealing with are also shared by the city. We also purchase gas. We also pay monthly bills to SDG&E. So flat revenues or declining revenues, along with additional increases in costs, are taking what has always been a structural deficit and making it much larger, $258 million. So the combination of balanced approach, right? So we are reducing costs, we are increasing revenue, and then we are finding efficiencies. That combination is what's going to allow us to address the deficit this year. And again, it's my intention to make sure that we deal with this once and for all so that we can start to responsibly grow back this organization in a way that meets the expectations of the public.
Environmentally, this might be great, but this is ridiculous that we're paying. I mean, can you blame the state for some of this? No, I'm not going to have any more taxes. I'm going to let Lawson Brewer raise, because this is, you see where we're going here.
I do.
The state is somewhat responsible for this anti-tax thing.
Well, the state and the federal government have their own deficits that they're dealing with. So San Diego's no different. It just happens to be that we're downhill from them, and you know what slides downhill. So listen, we have significant challenges. We don't expect or anticipate tremendous support, certainly from the federal government or from the state government, and so we're going to have to figure this out on our own, and that's what we're doing. Again, a balanced approach of making responsible reductions to make sure that baseline services are available to San Diegans who need them, strategic increases so that we're recovering our costs for services that we perform. For example, when developers pull permits to pay the full cost of that, when people disrupt one of our roads to dig into them, that they pay the full cost to fix those roads. Those are costs that were previously borne entirely by the taxpayer. Now we're expecting the folks who do that work to pay what it costs. When you do that, we can get ourselves into balance, and smart decisions like the one that we're announcing today, where we are we're no longer going to be spending millions annually to a private landlord, but instead are going to save that money, and what we do have to spend is going to go into a city-owned asset that we can maintain. That's a win-win, not just for the city in terms of reducing costs and generating a little bit of revenue to repair some facilities, but it's a win-win for taxpayers as well, where they are able to save money and maintain services in communities. Anyone else? Yeah.
One of the biggest checks you have to write every year is the pension.
Yeah.
Going back a couple decades, and that seems to be when more starting to deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a plan to fix that?
So I would disagree slightly with the premise. I've lived here my entire life. The roads have always been challenging. It's certainly made more difficult with low revenues and with increasing costs. And let's just preview, this will get worse with tariffs, right? When you are adding additional costs to basic materials that we source from overseas, this will make it more difficult to maintain our roads and other capital improvements that are planned, almost $850 million in this proposed budget. To your question about pension, a reminder that the pension crisis started in 2002. The City Council in 2009 reduced the pension plan to generate significant savings for taxpayers. And then in 2012, the voters of San Diego passed a pension reform measure that about 10 years later was thrown out by the courts. So in that situation, the only people who made money were the lawyers, right? And the city's left paying that bill. You probably should go back and ask the folks that pushed that measure in 2012 where the savings were, because they never materialized. Point is this. We have to deal with the situation. The pension is at roughly 74% funded. That's about 10+% more than it was at the start of this crisis. So we are responsibly paying down our pension debt. And when we do, this situation will be very different. The deficit I'd need you to focus on is not just the structural one that we're faced with this year's budget, but the capital deficit that no one really talks about, but you started with, right? It's not just the roads, it's the pipes, it's the sidewalks, it's the public facilities, it's the dams. It is the tremendous amount of capital needs that are measured in the billions for which we don't have a reasonable solution. We know we have been paying our pension bill in full and on time for almost 2 decades now. We have not been doing that with capital. We've got to tackle that. We offered a solution to the voters last year. We lost by a very small percentage point, but we're going to make the best with what we have, which is to make sure that we invest in our infrastructure. A reminder that the draft budget that I've proposed includes 390 miles of road repair, significantly more than what we've done in the past because it's a priority. And I'll just take this opportunity to remind everybody, while we can't solve and cater to every interest that's out there, we are going to make sure that this budget keeps you safe, fixes our roads, addresses homelessness, and builds more housing that San Diegans can afford.
This building is vacant now, I assume?
This one,
Partially occupied.
so both are partially occupied, some by existing city folks, some by, as you can see, with private sector folks. But anyway, the concentration of people here means that we're leaving a rented asset and moving into an owned asset. You want? Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, and look forward to sharing with the public additional ways that we're working hard to save money.